Hello YouTube, my name is Nero and welcome one, welcome all to this week's episode of Dear Nero, which of course is the weekly series here on my channel where your subscribers send me fan mail and or fan questions and I do best to answer them. I apologize for this week's Dear Nero going up on Thursday. Of course, Dear Nero is a weekly series that usually goes up on every single Wednesday, but I've just been swamped for videos the past couple of days. I decided to make my top 10 worst maps in Call of Duty history video, which was the biggest video that I've made in 2016 so far. Like, not in terms of length, but in terms of like sheer editing. Like, I think took for freaking ever to put together. Like, it took about an hour to do the voiceover for it, then it took like 9 hours or so to actually edit it together and actually get all the footage that was required. I'm sitting there hooking up consoles to get footage from old games and stuff. It took ages. It really did. It really put me behind schedule. And then when Wednesday came, we of course had the Zetsubo no Shima trailer that came out on Tuesday. I had to make a video of that, and it's like by the time I can get Dear Nero up, it's like 1 in the morning my time. So it wasn't worth it. I figured, hey, we'll push it back one day. I don't think too many people will mind, and hopefully you guys didn't, because Dear Nero's here, and hopefully it doesn't disappoint, because I have a lot of good questions this week that were sent in by you guys, and I can't wait to go through them. Let's hop into the first one here. He's going to write, Dear Nero, how do you think it will affect children in the future if their parents made living on YouTube? And this comes in, of course, from Liam on Twitter. So Liam, I'm speaking as a non-parent. I have no children to speak of, although there are a number of YouTubers out there who do have children. And the best one that I can point to, because the YouTuber I've watched for, ever since I started watching YouTube, basically, is Wiz Gamertag. He, of course, has 2 children. He has a son and a daughter. The daughter is... oh gosh, I have no idea. 17 or 18, I would assume. And I think his son is 12 or 13, somewhere in that line, right? And he, of course, has been a YouTube partner since 2010. So he's been a partner for, about 6 years. So his kids have essentially grown up with their dad being a YouTuber. That's like what he's done throughout the majority of the past 6 years. Not the entire time, I suppose, but the majority of the past 6 years, they've grown up with their dad being a YouTuber. And I think it's actually going to be something that we're going to see become a bit more common. I don't think it's going to negatively affect children in any way. In fact, it's going to make those children have, I think, a more interesting life than I'd say some other parents. Because if you think of a YouTuber, right, someone like me, even like a gaming YouTuber, I'm just at home all day playing video games. So you look at live streamers, they're at home playing video games the majority of the time, and children can kind of like take part in that at times, although obviously you don't want to get your kids too involved, I would say. But kids can take part in that. Their parents are usually home more often than other parents that have to leave the house. That's definitely a good thing. And also the idea of YouTube and live streaming and Twitch and all that, that's really becoming a more popular thing within society. At first it was like, what is this? And I'm still at this point. And every time I have to talk to anybody that went to school, like, oh, what are you doing now? It's just, I dread it. I really do. I have to explain what YouTube is, how YouTube works and stuff for people that just aren't in the know. But you look at people's children, and I've talked about this before, it is not uncommon whatsoever for people's children to grow up watching YouTube at this point, right? A lot of my cousins' children, I consider them my nieces and nephews, but in reality, like, they're my cousins' children, right? And they have grown up watching YouTube. They grow up watching Minecraft videos and watching other videos on YouTube. That's like what they do now. It's a thing. Like, when I was growing up, I would watch television, right? I would watch Nickelodeon, like 90s Nick, so I was born in 91, so I was watching like 90s Nick and stuff like that. Occasionally, I would watch Disney. I was more of a Nick guy than anything. I didn't like Disney nearly as much, but I grew up watching that stuff, right? People aren't doing that much these days. People now are watching YouTube more than anything, which is really insane to me. There's a lot of people that grow up with the idea that they want to be a YouTuber, which again is something that we did not have in my generation. We had no one growing up saying, I want to be an internet star, because the internet wasn't really a thing when I was a kid. Of course it was, but not a lot of people even had it. Like, if you had the internet, you were kind of special. Like, I remember when my grandparents got a computer, it was an old Gateway. I was like, dude, this is the coolest thing ever. And so I was like, getting on there and like looking up like sports stuff or like Nickelodeon stuff, because again, I was a child who was in the Nickelodeon at the time. Nowadays, people are into video games. They're into watching YouTubers or live streamers and things like that. It's definitely a lot different. How do I think it's going to affect children in the future? It's not going to affect them negatively, I don't think. Again, I think it's going to be kind of cool, because if your dad or your mom or both are like a live streamer, or they're a YouTuber, then they're going to have a lot more time at home. Chances are they're going to have a very big interest in video games. And if you're somebody that's also interested in video games, that would be pretty cool. Like, it would be awesome if I could talk to my parents about video games. Whenever I do see them, it's always about work, or it's about the weather or the animals, or just, whatever it is you want to talk to your parents about, right? Like, but they don't have the same interests as I do. They're not interested in video games. They're not interested in anything like that. Overall, I think it would be pretty cool for the child if growing up, their parents, made their living on YouTube or on Twitch or something like that. Like, I think it would just be a fun environment to grow up in, as compared to, having to, go to babysitters or go to daycare, or, do all that kind of stuff, or like, their parents are like gone, 8, 9, 10 hours a day. They, drop them off at school in the morning, and then they like maybe you see them like 5 o'clock that night when they get off of work and they're all grouchy because they just got off of work. I think it'd be a great environment for the child to grow up in, to be perfectly honest, because you're not going to be as grumpy, making a living on YouTube or on Twitch. It just isn't going to happen. You're typically going to enjoy your job because your job, if you're a gamer anyway, is playing video games and making content out of video games, which can be a lot of fun. So I think it'd be a really cool environment for a child to grow up in. And again, we're yet to see what it's going to be like for these children as they actually, become teenagers, become full-on adults and whatnot, because there's already this perception of children that are growing up that want to be YouTubers and live streamers when they grow up as compared to more traditional jobs, which is going to be odd. Who knows where YouTube and Twitch are going to be by the time that they're old enough to even be able to do that kind of thing. So it's definitely going to be interesting. It's definitely a good conversation to have. But overall, I think it'd be pretty cool if a child were to grow up in that kind of environment. The next question is going to be coming in on YouTube, where he's going to write, Dear Nero, you've been dissing and hating Infinity Ward for some time now. In your eyes, what will be acceptable in COD 2016 to make you not hate Infinity Ward so much? Like, what will make you enjoy the game instead of just grinding to max rank in pain and suffering? Nick from Australia. So Nick, this is actually pretty similar to a question I answered a couple of weeks ago, which was, will COD 2016 not suck if it's Space Warfare? Like, what can COD 2016 do to make Space Warfare not a horrible idea? And I said the same thing as I'm going to say here. Make it a fun game. And how do you make it a fun game? Like, that's not constructive criticism whatsoever. Make it fun. Make it good, Infinity Ward. Poke, poke. Like, it's not constructive criticism whatsoever. What makes a good COD, in my opinion, right? I want a wide variety of weapons. Lots of fun and interesting weapons. I want these weapons to have recoil. I want them to feel unique. I don't want to pick up an assault rifle, kill a guy, pick up another assault rifle, and have that other rifle feel exactly the same as the last one. A lot of guns feel that way in Call of Duty Ghosts, in my opinion, because they all killed so ridiculously quickly, and there's a severe lack of recoil in that game. So I definitely want there to be recoil. I want the weapons to be interesting, and I want to have a wide variety of them. I want semi-automatics, I want bursts, I want auto bursts, I want full autos, I want laser weapons if you're going to go with that Space Warfare theme. I want a wide variety of weapons. I want the maps to be interesting looking, right? I am so over this idea of a dystopian future. Like, holy crap, everything that's come out in the past 5 years has been, oh, it's a dystopian future where everything's a ruin and the world's in chaos. Everything is in that setting now. It's not interesting. It was interesting 5 years ago when they first started doing it, right? It's not anymore. Infinity Ward, just stop. Every single one of your maps. Oh, here's a ruined New York City. Here's a ruined Los Angeles. Here's a ruined London. It's like, I'm so bored of this. Can you do something interesting, please? Like, that's what it comes down to me. When I see Black Ops 3, right? And Black Ops 3 is like basically a simulation, the multiplayer is anyway. And you see, like, all the maps, they're all beautiful, they're all bright, they're all vibrant, they're all colorful, they're all fun and interesting. That's what they need to do. I don't care what you have to do for your setting to justify a reason for having that, but make it so your maps are bright, vibrant, beautiful, and interesting. That's all it really comes down to with the multiplayer maps. Make it so kill streaks are powerful again, right? Make kill streaks good again. That would be amazing. Like, kill streaks have just been really an afterthought in the past couple of Call of Duty games. I'd say Black Ops 3 is a bit different. They're very powerful in Black Ops 3, but if I look back to Advanced Warfare, or if I look at Call of Duty Ghosts, kill streaks just weren't that powerful. Of course, in Ghosts, like, they were really good when the game first came out, but then people started countering them by shooting them down as soon as they came up in the air, or wearing, like, the perks that would hide you from them. And just make it so kill streaks are fun. Make it so they're powerful. I want chopper gunners. I want Hueys. I want AC-130s. I want Predator missiles, Harrier strikes, artillery even, Rolling Thunders. I want big, powerful, scary score streaks. Stuff that's going to make it think, okay, if I earn this, I actually earn this, and it's actually a reward. Right now, even in Black Ops 3, people are so quick, especially because of dark matter challenges, to shoot down air support that I don't even run the big air support because it's not really worth my time. I usually run like a UAV, a Hellstorm, and a Lightning Strike, just because you can't shoot down the Hellstorm. Well, you can, but most people don't. And Lightning Strike, even though it's pretty terrible in this game. Like, those are the things I run just because the rest of the stuff typically gets shot down pretty quickly, and it's generally not going to be worth my time. I just don't enjoy going for it. So make it so that stuff is actually worth going for. Make it so there's actually a bunch of fun challenges to actually do with your weapons and whatnot to keep people interested. For example, dark matter, the equivalent of dark matter needs to be in every Call of Duty game going forward, if you ask me. It really does. It's too good, right? It's too good. It's too interesting. It makes it so everybody wants to try out all the different weapons. It actually makes people try out different things as compared to just sticking with one or two ridiculously powerful guns. Even though they still do that after they get dark matter, still on their way to dark matter, people are actually trying out different weapons. And Black Ops 3 is a great example. This game has some of the best weapon variety I've ever seen in Call of Duty, and I've been playing for a long time. Other than that, make the game interesting. Do whatever you can to make the game more interesting, aside from what I just said right there. You guys developers, you guys are smart. You can figure it out. But yeah, that's all it really has to come down to. I don't hate Infinity Ward for the sake of hating Infinity Ward. You know, I just hate Infinity Ward because the past couple of games they put out, in my opinion, have been some of the worst in Call of Duty history. Modern Warfare 2 was the last good Infinity Ward game, in my opinion, and fun fact, that wasn't even the same Infinity Ward that's running now. If you guys don't know, and fast forward, Infinity Ward, the great Infinity Ward that made like the original Call of Duty and like COD 4 and Modern Warfare 2, they had a big like a falling out with Activision like partway through the Modern Warfare 2 life cycle, where everybody like seriously, like everybody, like 90% of the studio, if not more, they all left Infinity Ward and they went over to make Respawn Entertainment, which was the people that made Titanfall. And then Activision kind of just threw together a new group and called it Infinity Ward. You know, they slapped together a bunch of new devs and put them all under the same roof again, and they call themselves Infinity Ward, and that's the team that's responsible for Modern Warfare 3 and Call of Duty Ghosts. And I don't like either one of those games. Like, I haven't liked any of the new Infinity Ward games whatsoever. It's not because, oh, I love old Infinity Ward. It's like, no, just objectively, I don't like their games. So that's why, yeah, I don't want to be too negative here in this video, but that's why I don't like Infinity Ward. I just haven't had fun with their games as compared to the Treyarch games or even Sledgehammer's games. Like, I think Advanced Warfare was a lot more fun than Ghosts or Modern Warfare 3. So, yeah, it's something to keep in mind there. I guess maybe Modern Warfare 3 might be a little bit better than Advanced Warfare, just because Modern Warfare 3 was a bit boots on the ground, but there's so many things to hate about that game at the same time. So I don't know, guys, but yeah, that's what Infinity Ward can do to make their game fun. Again, I don't hate them just to hate them. I hate them because I just don't enjoy their games. And I think there's definitely a big difference there. The next question is going to be coming in from Michael from Music City here on YouTube, where he's going to write, Dear Nero, do you think Titanfall 2 will struggle to sell well due to its predecessor's failures? Michael, that is a very good question, and I would say that the flop, I don't know if I would call Titanfall 1, the original Titanfall, a flop, because I think it sold pretty well. I think a lot of people tried it. But I definitely think it's going to hurt it because the game didn't have staying power, right? But at the same time, I think that could also help it because Titanfall itself was very fun, in my opinion. And I feel as though a lot of people felt the same way. And so when Titanfall 2 comes out, I think they're going to have a lot of purchases just based upon that consumer goodwill. I think even though the game flopped after a while because there just wasn't a lot of content, you just got bored quickly because there wasn't enough weapons, wasn't enough Titans, just wasn't enough to keep you interested. I feel as though there's going to be enough people that played Titanfall back in the day. They're going to think like, yeah, that game was really fun. Now Titanfall 2 is out, and hey, look, they added a bunch of new stuff that they advertised or had in the beta or whatever, they're going to be doing. And I think a lot of people are going to look back and say, yeah, I'm going to purchase Titanfall 2 because I had a lot of fun in Titanfall 1. Even though I got bored of it pretty quickly, Titanfall 2 definitely looks to be a lot better, and I think they're going to have a lot of people purchase it that way. But at the same time, I think it could definitely hurt it, like you mentioned. I think a lot of people are going to think that, Titanfall 1 was such a flop after, post-release that maybe they won't purchase Titanfall 2 as a result. That's definitely going to happen. There's definitely going to be some people in the world that are not going to purchase Titanfall 2 because they had a bad experience with Titanfall 1. Of course, that's going to be a thing. But overall, I'm just looking forward to Titanfall 2. I really am. Like, I'm anxiously awaiting this worldwide reveal they're going to be giving to us in a couple of months. I'm anxiously waiting to see if they're going to do another beta. That would be cool if they did another beta for sure, because I really enjoyed the Titanfall beta. It was a lot of fun. I was a bit disappointed once the full game came out. I was like, oh, I thought that there was only a limited number of guns in the beta because they didn't want to show us everything. Turns out that was every gun in the game, and that was also every Titan in the game. Oh, okay then. Like, the beta was pretty much a demo because it had all the weapons, it had all the Titans. It just had a limitation on the maps and the game modes. Like, it was definitely a bit of a system shock when everyone got the full release of Titanfall. But yeah, I think Titanfall 2 is going to do pretty well. I'm definitely looking forward to it, and I guess there's nothing more else to say because we don't know too much about it besides that one tiny little teaser trailer they gave us, which honestly though, it looked pretty good and definitely vibed to me. Single player campaign, which I think would definitely also help the sales if Titanfall has single player as well as a multiplayer. The next question is going to be coming in from Zach on YouTube, who's going to write, Dear Nero, I was wondering if you play or have played any card games such as Pokemon or Magic the Gathering. Every Friday I go to a tournament store in my town and play Magic. They are super fun and a great way to meet new people and make friends. Have a great day. You're the best. So, Zach, I did play a lot of card games growing up. I was really into Pokemon growing up. I think a lot of people know that I played the Game Boy game, as well as I like to play the card game as well. Once I got into, like, late elementary school, I'd want to call it, like, 4th and 5th grade, I would say, which sounds super young. But I was really into Yu-Gi-Oh! At that time. Like, that was, like, the big thing at that time. Everyone was really into Yu-Gi-Oh! Cards and stuff like that. And I was, for whatever reason, good at Yu-Gi-Oh! At least in my peer group, my, like, group of, like, 4 or 5 5th grade friends. I was really good at Yu-Gi-Oh! As compared to them. Like, I won a lot of the games. I could be using a deck that I put together myself, or I could be using a deck that like a starter deck, like a starter Joey or a starter Yugi deck or something like that, or Kaiba with a Blue Eyes White Dragon even. So I was pretty good then. And I remember going back to the example where I gave where I talked about my grandmother's gateway computer. I would get on the computer occasionally. I would look up to see if there's any card shops around me, because I thought it would be fun to like try to go to a tournament or something like that. Like I thought it would be pretty cool, because I was the best player of my little group of 4 or 5 5th grade friends. I assumed I was good enough to play on a competitive level. And so I would get on the computer and I'd look up like these tournaments and whatnot that would be around me. And there really was never any. There's a couple of small card shops that are maybe an hour away from me or something like that. It's never ended up actually going to them, because of course I'm a 5th grader at that time. So I did play a bunch of Yu-Gi-Oh! I did play a bunch of Pokemon. I did play a little bit of Magic the Gathering, like a very small amount, although I will say I don't think we ever actually fully understood the rules. I'm fairly positive we just made up our own rules as to how we played that game. I did play a bit of that as well, but as I've gotten older, I've kind of like fallen out of card games, mainly because there's nobody to play with. I have played like in the past couple of years, like my brother and I purchased, I think it was around Christmas, like a couple of years ago, we purchased each like a starter Pokemon deck just to play against each other, just to see if we can remember how to play and whatnot, because they're like, what, $10 each or something like that. And that was fun. They're actually EV decks. Maybe if you're a big fan of Pokemon cards, you guys can recognize the decks I'm talking about. They were essentially EV decks. I got the Glaceon deck. He had the like Leafeon deck or something like that. I don't remember which ones they were exactly, but yeah, so we played with those for a little bit, but not really too much. These days, the only card game I really play is Hearthstone, because it's a computer game and I can just play it on my PC and I can instantly connect with people from all around the world without having to set up, going down to a shop or trying to meet up with people or anything like that. So it's definitely good in that respect. Online card games, I think, are definitely a good thing, but there's definitely something great to be said about the actual physical game and actually going to a shop like we were talking about, and actually playing with people and making friends and whatnot. That could definitely be pretty cool. The next question is going to be coming in from Dragon of April Rain on Twitter, who's going to write, Dear Nero, have you ever considered doing playthroughs of zombie Easter eggs with friends on your primary or second channel? And this is something I have considered in the past, because I'm somebody who, like I mentioned a couple of videos ago with the Zetsubo Noshima trailer, I'm somebody who doesn't play a ton of zombies, therefore I've never actually seen an Easter egg. I've never done any of the zombie Easter eggs ever, which I'm sure is going to sound absurd to some of you guys. I tried doing a lot of them in Black Ops 2. I remember specifically trying to do the transit one, where you get the electric man to kind of come out of the power plant, then something, I forget all the steps, but eventually we get this like electric man in the field, like the big cornfield on transit, and then you have to get him underneath like one of those pylon tower things. We always failed at that step. So I never actually completed any actual zombie Easter eggs in Call of Duty, which is super disappointing to me, but my friend Cypher has done just about all of them. I don't know if he's done the ones here in Black Ops 3 so far, but he's done all the other zombie Easter eggs, at least the Tryhards zombie Easter eggs. And so he was going to walk us through them one day. We got pretty far on the moon one, but I think we ended up just like getting tired, or we failed it, or we did something wrong. I don't remember. We didn't actually complete it. So he knows all of them like by heart. Like we wouldn't even have to like look up a video or anything. And so I would like to get him to like kind of like walk me through it. Maybe get my brother and somebody else in there, so we have a group of 4, and just record it all live and have some fun with it. But we'll see if that ever actually ends up happening. I never like to guarantee things are going to happen, because it's always hard to kind of like organize a group of people to try and get them all like, hey, can we sit down and play this thing for a couple of hours straight and record it live with no interruptions? Like, it's always kind of hard to set that up with 4 people. So maybe in the future I will not like cross it off as something that's never going to happen, although I wouldn't say it's going to happen either. It's something that may come to my channel someday, because I would like to see all the zombies Easter eggs. I could watch videos of it, but I think it'd be more fun to just do the Easter eggs myself. I think it'd be more interesting to actually experience them in game. So we'll have to see about that. The next question is going to be coming in from OK on YouTube, who's going to write, Dear Nero, what's an everyday place that you would visit normally that you would like to be implemented into a Call of Duty game? For example, a zoo or a Walmart as a map. Now, okay, this is a very interesting concept, also a very touchy concept as well, because there's a lot of really cool places that they've done already. For example, we've seen a skate park, we've seen a zoo back in, was it the original Black Ops' DLC map? We've seen a water park, we've seen snow resorts and ski resorts. We've seen a lot of really cool ideas, but there's some of them that I think are just like completely off limits, right? For example, one of the ones that immediately came to my head and I immediately thought to myself, oh yeah, we can't do that, was like a school environment or like a university. I'm like, that would make for an interesting map, right? I'm like, no, never mind. You can't do that. That would be horrible. You can't have a Call of Duty map set at a school. There would be a riot. The other idea, like I like your idea of like a store, like a Walmart, like something like, especially if they full on like committed to the theme, right? I want the things to be kind of like separating like lines of sight to actually be like giant like aisles of like merchandise and whatnot that you like have to like run around to see. Like picture like your local Walmart or like a local store that you have, and picture that as a Call of Duty map and how interesting that could actually be. Like next time, I guarantee some of you guys are going to think about that. Next time you guys go to the store, you're going to walk around like, yeah, this could be a Call of Duty map. Like, look at that. I could climb up there somehow. That could be a sniper spot up there. Like, that would be, I don't know. I think it'd be interesting if they were to do like a big store kind of a thing. But again, there's a lot of ones that definitely wouldn't work out well because, of course, of all the shootings that happen in real life. So you can't, I don't know. They have to be really, really careful, I think, when they make maps that are like super like local places that like a lot of people would visit on a pretty frequent basis. Again, they've already done like the skate park, water park, zoos, and ski resorts and stuff like that. But if they were to do something like a school or like a shop or like a university or I don't know, even just like a downtown kind of a thing. Like, it's always sketchy. You never know exactly what is going to offend people, what isn't. So they have to be pretty careful with that. So let me know in the comments, like, what do you guys think? Like, what do you guys think would be a really interesting everyday location that a lot of people would normally visit that would make for an interesting Call of Duty map? Let me know about that in the comment section below. I definitely think that would be a very interesting discussion. Although, once again, schools and universities, I think, are pretty much off limits. The next and final question is going to be coming in once again here on YouTube from Jean from Colorado. I think it's how you pronounce it. I Googled how to pronounce it, and that's how they pronounce it on Google. Therefore, I'm going to assume that's how you pronounce your name as well. But he writes, Dear Nero, is it me, or are there a lot more campers in Black Ops 3 since the DLC dropped? I play on Xbox One, and since I got the DLC, I rarely find matches that the majority, if not entirety, of the enemy team is just sitting in a building watching every entrance and waiting for someone to pass by. I still enjoy this game. Who doesn't love putting poor players in their place? But it's getting to a point where I end up carrying my team in almost every match. It feels like the quality of matches are kind of stagnating or degrading. I would love to hear your opinion. Thanks for always giving me something to watch and listen to. Keep up the great work. So I think what you're experiencing with this is basically what we've always experienced with DLC and Call of Duty in the past. People that download DLC are typically going to be better players. They're typically going to care a lot more about the game, therefore they're probably going to be better at it. Somebody that's very interested in the game, so much so that they want to buy map packs for it, they're typically going to be a better player because they have probably spent more time playing that game than the average fan who maybe doesn't want to purchase the DLC. One of the big arguments about Call of Duty DLC, this is going back to when DLC was first implemented, was that it creates a system of haves and have-nots, right? You have the people that do have the DLC and they only play other people that have DLC, and then there's a group of the people that don't have DLC that only play other people that don't have the DLC, right? It's dividing your community, it's splitting up the player base. And so when you do decide to purchase the DLC or a season pass or what have you, when you download that DLC, you're only going to face people with that DLC, and once again, they're typically going to be better players. Now, I don't know you personally, right? I don't want to say like, oh, you're the kind of person that would say this, but this is just my own personal experience. I've seen a lot of people in the past, whenever they see someone do good, they're like, oh, that guy must be a camper. You know, that guy has a high KD. Well, a camper. Oh, look at him up there. He's camping. You know, it's a thing that people say whenever they see somebody doing good, even if that's not necessarily what they're doing. People call me a camper all the time. And do you watch my gameplay? Not a camper. I don't stop moving the majority of the time, right? Unless I need to. And so it's just a thing that people say. And so when you say that there's a lot more campers in Black Ops 3 since the DLC dropped, I have a feeling what you mean is that a lot of players are just better, you know, as a result of the DLC dropping. That's because, you know, they're typically going to be players that know the maps. They're going to be players that will typically try to hold down certain points on the map, like a B flag and domination. They're going to hold that more than, you know, say your average fan. It's going to be a lot more competitive. It's going to be a lot more difficult, I would suppose. Now, the second part of your question there, you mentioned it's getting to the point where you feel so you're carrying your team almost every single match. That says to me you are a good player, because if you feel so you're carrying every single game that you're in, typically that's as a result of the matchmaking system, which is not skill-based matchmaking. I want to say that it's not skill-based matchmaking. It's going to put you in a lobby based upon your connection, right? They want to get you in a lobby that's going to have the best connection possible, but once you're in that lobby, they then divide up the teams based upon quote-unquote skill. Now, exactly how they define skill, I don't know, but one would assume if you have like a high KD, a high score per minute, and stuff like that, you're typically going to be considered a high skill player in terms of matchmaking, and they're going to put you on a team with a bunch of people that have, you know, lower KDs and lower score minutes as to make the teams even. They want to make it so each team is roughly even in terms of skill, therefore the matches are going to be close, right? Every game tries to do that, I would suppose, anyway, or at least they should. And Black Ops 3 is no different. And so when you do that in Black Ops 3, and if you're somebody like me, which I just did an entering Prestige video not too long ago, and I showed you guys I have a really high score per minute. My KD's pretty above average. Was it like a 1.8, something like that? Like, it's not amazing, but it's certainly above average. I typically get matched up in those lobbies like you're talking about, where, you know, the majority of my teammates are typically going to be lower score per minute, you know, lower kill death ratio. Like, I've gotten to the point where I can call out who's going to be on my team and who isn't, just looking at the lobby leaderboard or just by looking at their ranks. So if there's a non-prestige level 40, you know, in my lobby, I'm like, yep, he's going to be on my team, because chances are his stats going to be really bad, so I'm going to put him on my team to kind of even things out. And just, it's a system, right? It's how they do things. So if you feel as though you're carrying every single match, this is not only to you, Jean, which again, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. It might be Juan for all I know. I have no idea. But if you feel as though you're carrying every single match, and this goes out to anybody, it's probably because you're a really good player. It's probably because you have a high score per minute, you have really good stats and whatnot. So just something to bear in mind with that. That's how the matchmaking system works. Now, the quality of matches, I don't think that they're stagnating. I don't think that they're necessarily degrading. Well, maybe they are stagnating. I don't know. They're about the same as when the game came out. Maybe you're right there. Yeah, because when the game came out, you would have your good matches, you have your bad matches, you have your average matches, and they don't seem to change, I suppose. Like, I've had these games where I feel as though I'm carrying a lot, since day one, since the beta, even, that's just always been something in Call of Duty. So maybe you're right on that. Maybe matchmaking hasn't really changed a lot. It just maybe it feels as though the quality of your competition is a little bit higher because DLC dropped, and that's going to happen every single time. It's going to happen. It's always happened in Call of Duty. Again, going back to Call of Duty 4, where they released their one and only map pack for that game. If you're playing with people that have the map pack, typically, those people, not always, but typically, those people are going to be a little bit better. They typically have more time played. They're typically going to be better players because they're invested and interested enough in the game to purchase a season pass or purchase a DLC pack and so on and so forth. So hopefully that answers your question. Hopefully that clears things up for you. And yeah, we got a new DLC coming here in about 5 days at the time of this video being recorded if you play on the PlayStation, and then of course 1 month later if you play on the Xbox or on the PC. So that's going to be a lot of fun. Definitely looking forward to that. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is going to conclude this week's episode of Dear Nero. I hope you guys all enjoyed it. If you did, please drop me a rating. And of course, if you guys would like to submit your questions for the next episode of Dear Nero, simply send me a personal message here on YouTube, or alternatively, you could tweet me on Twitter at NeroTweets using the hashtag Dear Nero. And every single Wednesday, not Thursday, this is not a typical thing. Not rarely do I have to actually, push back Dear Nero Day, but we did this week. But every single Wednesday, I will go through and I will look through all the questions and I'll put together the video that day. And Dear Nero will hopefully go up that day on Wednesday. And yeah, that's how the system works. It's how it's always worked for nearly 200 episodes now. So hopefully you guys have gotten the gist of it by now. But once again, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. Drop me a rating. Hope you guys all have a wonderful day.